Welcome to the Glow Getters podcast. My name is Fahey-Ahrndt, and I'm your host. I teach and inspire leaders to step into their productive selves and find their true potential. I'm a passionate creative and scientist with over 8 years of healthcare leadership experience. At age 25, I stepped into my first management role and didn't find the leadership advice I was looking for. So here I'm giving you the tools to end burnout and enjoy a vibrant career and life. Glad you're here to learn and grow with me. Now, on with the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the Glow Getters podcast, or if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hello, my name is Kayla. I'm a leadership coach, trainer, and speaker, and I love to help you out by sharing my best leadership tips from my experience with 10 plus years of healthcare leadership, volunteer leadership experience under my belt. I especially like working with new professionals who are sort of figuring things out, how to prioritize, how to be productive, and I also, like I said, work in healthcare. So I love working with people who are figuring out, how do I reduce burnout in my job? How do I make it through the healthcare field right now? How do I stick with it? What tips do you have, Kayla? I am drowning. So I'm here to help. I wanted to let you know that I'm doing a free webinar next week, March 29th. It's a Tuesday at 4 p.m. and I'm going to be teaching on my favorite law of leadership, and it's called the Law of Priorities. I have this book to share with you. It's from the book, John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. This is the workbook. I don't know if anybody else likes to take the jacket covers off their books, but this is the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I want to help you, so I am doing a free live webinar to talk about prioritization and delegation and give you my best tips from my experience, some tips from the book, and some real life stories about how I started out and how I found sort of this balance when it came to delegating and prioritization, and how it sped up my productivity and helped me be where I am today. So I highly recommend that you check it out. We'll have a link in the description below if you're on YouTube, or in the show notes if you're on my podcast. And you can sign up for the event. You don't have to be there live. My intention is to record the session, whether I host it on Zoom or my YouTube channel, I'm not sure yet. And I will send you the link to it. So regardless, if you register and you cannot attend in real time, I will send you the recording so you can watch later. But I hope that you will join me. My goal is for it to be interactive and engaging. That doesn't mean we're going to play games. It just means that I'm not going to make you bored during the session, and I'm going to give you lots and lots of value so that you can implement the next day at work or right away. So I'm going to give you some tips and takeaways so that right after the webinar, you're like, okay, I know how I'm going to go back and work on my prioritization. And I promise you, these aren't like your typical delegating ideas. These are some really innovative, smart ways of thinking about prioritization and delegating, and then tactical ways to actually go out and do the thing. So again, it's a free leadership webinar on the law of priorities. It's Tuesday, March 29th. It's 4 p.m. Central. If you can join me, click on the link in the description or in my podcast show notes so you can join either live and or get the recording so you can watch and get all the value after that. All right, so that's the little bit of housekeeping out of the way. The second thing I wanted to let you know is that I am open to speaking engagements this year. I know I've said it in passing on the podcast and the YouTube channel before, but I just want to let you know that I will have a profile on eSpeakers, which is a website where people can find speakers for events. So I'll link that in the description and the podcast when that link's available. But I have done keynotes before. I have done breakout session talks before. I've just done random presentations for my organization, outside of my organization before. And that's all linked on my website. You can check out, I think I have a menu item that says like speaking and media or something like that. So you can read and see what types of talks I've given before. But I'm open to it. So if you're looking for somebody to come to your organization at lunchtime or during a meeting and give a talk on leadership, or maybe it's a virtual conference that's being planned or an on-site conference, I would love to be considered. When you're thinking of me, think of leadership topics related to personal and professional development, mindset, productivity, leader standard work, lean thinking, and young professional leadership development. All right, now that that's out in the universe, if you're interested or you have a need or you think you know somebody, please send me an email at kayla@kfaconsulting.org. And again, I'll put that in the description or the podcast show notes. So let's get into today's topic. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get out of your comfort zone on one hand and stay in your zone of genius. Okay? So you might be thinking, Kayla, these two things seem to be conflicting. Getting out of your comfort zone and staying in your zone of genius. So let's break it down. The first part is getting out of your comfort zone. To me, this means growth, developing, trying something new, innovating, right? Staying in your zone of genius to me means working on your strengths, doing things you enjoy, doing things that come easier to you, doing things that are more intuitive, that are more gut related, that are more maybe even trained because you feel like you're smart and intelligent in that area. So really what I mean by get out of your comfort zone and stay in your zone of genius, I mean find something work on your strengths, find something in your strengths that allows you to grow and develop. The opposite of this would be doing things that are not your favorite, that you don't love, that maybe you're not the expert in, but maybe you're good at, right? And that kind of aren't maybe as intuitive or gut related. So let me give you some real examples. So if you think about two lists, take a piece of paper and write hate and love. I want these to be like stark, contrasting lists. So think about in your job or in your work or the different things you're responsible or accountable for you in your work as leaders. What are the things you hate, like you loathe and despise, and what are the things you love? There might also be like an in-between column of things that you don't hate, you don't love, but you're good at, right? And so when you make your list, let me give you my list, for example. I hate writing SOPs. I hate like getting super, super detailed. I want to give people the flexibility to create their reality rather than define it for them. I do not hate getting technical. I really like being technical. However, it's not something that I like doing 100% of the time. Okay, so maybe it's in the middle. I love people. I love vision. I love strategy. I love thinking about workflow. I love simplifying workflows. I'm looking at my notes here. I hate thinking through every possible situation, including the exceptions in the less than 1%, to define that in a procedure or policy, okay? So you can see my strengths probably are motivating, innovating, people growth, people leadership, and maybe my opportunities might be more detail focused, right? Not to say I can't get detailed. I'm a medical lab scientist. I'm a scientist. I love details. However, that's not my zone of genius. Like I have to like switch into scientist mode to focus there. If I were to like subconsciously just go out and start leading, it would be from the people side. It wouldn't be from the technical side, okay? So if you have your list of the hate and the love, your love list is probably going to be more in your zone of genius because people tend to like what they're really good at. And like I said, you can be in the middle, like creating workflows. I love that because it's more high level. I love making those like workflow diagrams. Is that the best use of my time as a people leader? Probably not 100% of the time. So when I think about delegating or prioritizing, if I have something that's more people-related, relationship building, I'm probably the only person that can build those relationships for myself, right? If I want to develop somebody and gain trust with them, I'm the only one that can do that by building that personal relationship. But if there's a workflow diagram to create, there's probably somebody out there that can do it just as good as me or better than me, or maybe even 80% of the quality that I would provide, right? So as a leader, it's your job to recognize, okay, I've got all this work to do, right? You're looking at your list. It's enormous. It's growing every day. One of the items for me would be creating this workflow diagram, and the other item is meeting with this strategic team. If I had to choose, I would say, okay, I'm going to coach, train, and teach somebody to build this workflow diagram, and I'm going to share them how I know how to do it, and then I'm going to give them creative freedom to say, now you go do it. And I personally am going to meet with that team of folks to develop those relationships. So can you see how it would still be out of my comfort zone to go meet people I don't know, figure out what they need, ask them questions, build relationships, get trust from them and give them my trust. But it's also my zone of genius because I like doing it. It's what I'm good at. And that's more intuitive for me than if I were to sit down and get really nitty gritty into a workflow diagram that will bring me joy. It's tedious, but it's just an activity for me. For somebody else, thinking through all the steps that need to be complete, that being very technical, that might be more in their zone of genius. They're going to get more out of it. They're going to be motivated. They're going to be excited that I'm trusting, that I'm building that relationship with them to delegate to them. Whereas for me, it's just going to be another thing that's going to suck up time on my calendar. So what I ask you to do is create that love, your hate list, and think about what can I do that is going to light me up, get me excited, that's in my zone of like brilliance, of genius, and where can I make room to leave room and opportunity for growth? And those things you hate or don't like, or things that are more monotonous to you that could really help others grow, those are the things you're going to start thinking about. How can I delegate this? How can I teach and train somebody to do this? Can they do it just as good as me or almost as good as me? And is almost as good as me good enough? Probably, right? So work in your strengths, delegate the rest to leave room for growth. So again, get out of your comfort zone and stay in your zone of genius. Not totally opposite things, but on the surface level can seem like two different things. So how do you know if you're working more in your like non-zone of genius? If you're working more on the things that you're like, this isn't really my like meat and potatoes, not my love. For me, it's when my list gets really long and I find myself being like, ugh, I gotta do this. Ugh, I gotta do that. Or icky, this feels really sticky. I'm not sure what thing to do. I'm feeling like a little bit like all over the place. Or, okay, I really gotta talk myself into doing this thing. Or, I really should have asked for help. Or, I should have said no to that thing. That's how you know that you are filling up your time with your activities and not with achievements, because you are focusing on just doing the things versus working in your zone of genius. So once you start feeling like that, that's when you need to go back and evaluate what tasks are genius and what tasks are activities that can be delegated, and start doing that. Now, some of you have mentioned to me on Instagram, like, delegating is, time consuming and it's a lot of work. And I agree, it can be. But it's also an investment. When you invest in people, they trust you and they become productive and they become people that you can potentially work into your succession plan, and they become up and coming leaders and they give you insight, and the return on your investment is huge. You might spend a couple hours teaching or training potentially, if that, and they're going to give you back so much more, because the time that you spend with them, they will then come back and say, give me more. I want to help. Or I have an idea. And you're like, okay, here's more stuff. And they're like, great, thank you for teaching me. Because we all need to go through learning the basics so that we can accelerate our growth and continue to be better and better leaders and identify what is my zone of genius. So the next time you're like, oh, I'll just take care of it myself, think about how many more times you're going to say that until you're just going to schedule some time to train and grow someone else. Think of that upfront investment as really that. It's an investment. Think of that time spent as an investment in someone else. And that is your job too as leaders, is to help others grow and develop, because you don't want to be a leader by yourself. You want to be surrounded by other people who help make awesome things happen, who also have zones of genius, who have complementary zones of genius to you, right? We don't need all people in leadership. We need some technical people, right? So I want to develop other people who have different skills, strengths, and geniuses than me. All right, so I hope those teachings help you for today, give you something to think about next time you are considering delegating and considering, what do you love? What do you hate? What's an activity that you can delegate? And thinking about how you can work in your genius more often. If you liked what you heard today and you want to hear more, and you want to hear something more that's a longer teaching that has more detail and meat, definitely join me next Tuesday, the 29th at 4 p.m. for my free leadership webinar all about the law of prioritization, which goes even more into delegating, even more into identifying which tasks you should keep and which you should share with the world. Let somebody else do those tasks. So please join me. Click the link in my bio. If you're on my Instagram, if you're on my podcast, check out the show notes. If you're on YouTube, check out in the description below. And either way, you can sign up and I will email you the recording when the webinar is over. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care. And until next time, be a light. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I wanted to let you know about something new that I'm doing. If you could please leave me a rating and review on iTunes or write in your Apple Podcasts app, I would so appreciate it. Each week, I'm going to be doing a drawing and sending an email to a winner just to say thank you with some treats, tips, and a little bit of extras, because I really want to get this podcast out to more people, and I want to hear how it's helping you, getting feedback about what you love to hear about and what you love about the podcast so I can keep doing that. Also, if you'd like to connect with me on a deeper level, check out my website at glowgetterslife.com. You'll find links to my About Me page so you can learn about me and my journey in leadership. You'll find links to my blog, my podcast for more episodes, and to my YouTube channel. And you can also find links to the templates and leadership planners I've created, as well as my free resource library. All right, thanks so much. And until next time, be a light.